I'm so late. Oh, not today.
Hey, lady.
Seyon Park was 2 seconds away from committing a federal crime, and honestly, she felt justified. It was 7:52 on a Thursday morning in Atlanta, Georgia, and Seyon was speed walking down Peachtree Street like the devil himself was clocking her in. Her short burgundy wig sat perfectly on her head, bone straight, swinging just below her chin with every panicked step. Her portfolio case was banging against her knee, and somewhere between the MARTA platform and this exact corner, the universe had decided to personally attack her. Her heel had snapped, not cracked, not wobbled, snapped clean off like it had somewhere better to be. Now she was clacking down the sidewalk at a 45-degree angle, tilted like a broken lamp, because today was her first day as lead graphic designer at Apex Creative House, and her new creative director had made it extremely clear during their onboarding call that she ran a tight ship and she didn't like surprises. Seyon caught her reflection in a boutique window and nearly sat down on the sidewalk and cried. She was listing to the left, visibly, like a very well-dressed sinking ship. She needed to fix this heel situation immediately, or she was going to walk into the most important meeting of her career looking like a Pinterest fail. That's when she spotted it. The sleek black Escalade parked flush against the curb, its chrome wheel rims gleaming like something out of a music video. More importantly, its bumper sat at the perfect height, sturdy, wide, thick. Basically a bench with an attitude problem. Seyon glanced around. The sidewalk was crowded with morning commuters, but everyone was buried in their phones, their coffees, their own small disasters. The windows on the SUV were blacked out completely, the kind of tint that said money and privacy in the same breath. She just needed 30 seconds, 60 tops. "Real quick," she whispered, and set her portfolio case flat on the hood of the Escalade, because she needed both hands free. Yes, directly on a stranger's very expensive car. She didn't have time to be sorry about it. She pulled off her broken heel pump and wedged it between her knees, digging through her bag for the emergency superglue she'd been carrying since her cousin's wedding 2 years ago, when the exact same thing had happened to a bridesmaid. Her fingers found it. She squeezed a line of glue along the heel cap, pressed it back onto the shoe sole, and held it firm with both thumbs while looking up at the sky like she was praying, which she was. Come on, bond, please bond," Seyon muttered, applying pressure and doing a very unfortunate standing squat against the bumper of the Escalade to keep her leverage even. She looked objectively like a person losing a fight with their own shoe while slow-motion riding an invisible bicycle. And that's when she heard it. The soft hydraulic exhale of a car door being pushed open from the inside. Seyon froze mid-squat. Her hands were still sandwiching her heel. Her portfolio was still on the hood. Oh no, oh no, no, no. She looked up slowly, like maybe if she moved carefully enough, reality wouldn't fully register what was happening. The back door of the Escalade swung open, and a man stepped out onto the sidewalk, and Seyon felt her brain perform a complete systems restart, because the man standing in front of her was not what she expected. He was Korean. Young, maybe early 30s, and absolutely objectively, almost offensively beautiful. He was lean but clearly strong, and every visible inch of him, from his throat to his forearms, was covered in tattoos, dark sweeping ink that disappeared under the collar of a fitted black turtleneck. His hair was silver gray, pulled back in a sleek, low ponytail that somehow made him look like a painting someone decided to let walk around. He wore dark slacks and shoes that cost more than Seyon's rent, and he had this stillness about him that made the air feel different, quieter, the way it does right before a storm. He looked at the portfolio case sitting on his hood. He looked at Seyon squatting against his bumper with a broken shoe in her hands. He said nothing, just watched her with eyes that were so calm they were almost unsettling, like he had all the time in the world and was mildly curious how she planned to explain herself. Seyon stood up very slowly. "I can explain," she said. The man tilted his head just slightly. Still nothing. I just needed to fix my heel. Your bumper is the perfect height, structurally speaking, and I didn't think anyone was in there because the windows are extremely dark, which is almost a public safety issue if you think about it, and I'm very sorry about the portfolio case on your hood. There's no scratch, I can check. I will absolutely check. Stop, he said. Just that, one word, and something about his voice made her actually stop. It was low, flat, and carried the specific energy of a man who was accustomed to being obeyed without repetition. Se-yeon stopped. He walked to his hood, examined it briefly, then looked back at her. "You left marks," he said. Se-yeon looked at the hood. There were no marks. She looked back at him. "There are no marks." "There are." "Sir, with respect, there genuinely are not." Something shifted in his expression. Not a smile, not quite, but adjacent to one. "You're still holding your shoe," he observed. Se-yeon looked down. She was indeed still clutching her heelless pump like a weapon. She lowered it carefully to her side. "It broke," she said, as if that clarified everything. He looked at the shoe, then at her other foot, still in its matching pump, and then at the very obvious height difference between her two sides. "You've been walking like that?" "I've been walking at speed. There's a difference." She grabbed her portfolio off his hood, which she noticed he watched with the focused attention of someone cataloging a potential threat. "Again, I'm sorry. I'll get out of your way." "Where are you going?" "To work. I'm late." "In that condition?" She looked down at her foot again. "I'll figure it out." She turned to leave and promptly wobbled hard to the left because the uneven heels were genuinely a hazard and the glue had not, it turned out, bonded. "Wait." His voice stopped her again, without any particular effort. He reached into the back of the Escalade and came out with a black paper bag, the kind with ribbon handles that upscale stores used. He held it out to her. Se-yeon stared at it. "What is that?" "Shoes." "I'm sorry?" "My sister. She leaves things in my car. She's about your size." He held the bag out further, patient, like he had nothing else to do on a Thursday morning on Peachtree Street. Se-yeon did not move. "I'm not taking shoes from a stranger. You were sitting on my car. I was leaning against your bumper. That's different." "Is it?" They stared at each other. Several people had slowed slightly on the sidewalk, the way people slow when they sense something interesting happening nearby, without fully committing to stopping. "Who are you?" Se-yeon asked. He didn't answer. He just set the bag down on the hood of his own car, stepped back and crossed his arms, waiting. Se-yeon grabbed the bag, peered inside, found a pair of clean black pointed flats that were absolutely her size, and then looked up at him with the very specific expression of a person who has just been outmaneuvered. "Fine," she said. "Thank you. I'm paying you back." "You don't have to." "I am." She pulled a business card out of her portfolio case, the way people do when they're trying to feel professional in an objectively unhinged situation, and held it out to him. He took it without looking at it. "Se-yeon Park, graphic designer. That's my email. Invoice me for the shoes." He looked at the card then, really looked at it. Something in his face changed almost imperceptibly. "Park," he said. "That's me." She slipped off her broken pumps, slid on the flats, stood up at an even height for the first time in 20 minutes, and felt a physical rush of relief. "Okay, goodbye. Thank you. Sorry about your hood." She walked away quickly, portfolio banging against her hip, and did not look back, because if she looked back, she would have to acknowledge that the most enigmatic, unsettling, beautiful man she had ever encountered in real life was currently standing on a sidewalk holding her business card, and that was information she did not have the emotional bandwidth to process before 9 a.m. Y'all, she took shoes from a tattooed, silver-haired stranger on the street and called his tinted windows a public safety issue. Hit that subscribe button because what Se-yeon doesn't know is that this man doesn't give shoes to strangers, ever. Drop a comment saying Se-yeon ate and left no crumbs if you're already invested. And trust me, you need to stay because she's about to walk into her first day of work and find out exactly who she borrowed shoes from. The man watching her walk away was Min-Joon Kwon, and if that name doesn't mean anything to you yet, it will. He ran Kwon Group, one of the most quietly powerful private equity and entertainment conglomerate operations in the southeastern United States. He was 29 years old, ran 3 legitimate companies and 2 that required considerably less paperwork, and he had not been surprised by a single thing in approximately 4 years. He looked down at the business card in his hand. Apex Creative House. He turned it over. He knew that company. He'd just acquired it. His driver, a solid older man named Hanel, who had been with Min Jun's family for 15 years, appeared beside him. "Sir, you're 9 o'clock." "Push it," Min Jun said. Hanel looked at the card in his hand and then at the retreating figure of the burgundy-wigged woman now moving very efficiently down the sidewalk in what were clearly not her shoes. "The woman on your car. She wasn't on my car. She was very much on your car, sir." Min Jun slid the business card into his inner jacket pocket. She said she was leaning. He got back into the Escalade. "Pull up everything you have on Apex Creative House's new design hire." Hanel did not comment. He had learned a long time ago when questions were unwelcome. He got back behind the wheel and pulled out. In the back seat, Min Jun sat very still, doing what he always did, thinking carefully before moving. Se-yeon Park had not recognized him. She'd leaned against his car, argued about hood damage that did not exist, refused his help twice before accepting it, handed him an invoice request with the energy of someone filing a formal complaint, and walked away without once looking impressed. Nobody walked away from Min Jun Kwon without looking impressed. They didn't even do it by accident. He almost smiled. Almost. Se-yeon blew through the glass doors of Apex Creative House at 8:09 a.m., only technically late if you were being specific about it, which her new creative director absolutely was going to be. Dana Osai was already standing at the reception desk, and the expression on her face could cure meat. Dana was in her mid-40s, Ghanaian American, natural hair pinned up, wearing an ox-blood blazer and the energy of a woman who had built her career on precision and had very low tolerance for people who treated time as approximate. She had been one of the most decorated creative directors in Atlanta for 12 years, and her agency's client list read like a who's who of Fortune 500 companies. "Park," Dana said. "I know," Se-yeon said, already pulling off her jacket and straightening her wig. 9 minutes. My heel snapped off on the platform and I had to make emergency modifications. It will never happen again." Dana looked at Se-yeon's feet, at the pointed flats that were clearly not the shoes she'd dressed to match her outfit with. "Those aren't yours. They're borrowed." "From who?" "A stranger." Dana closed her eyes for exactly 2 seconds, the way someone does when they're choosing not to say the thing they want to say. "My office, now. You're on a 30-day probationary review." She turned and walked, and Se-yeon followed, mentally preparing herself to be excellent enough in the next 30 days that Dana Osai forgot this morning ever happened. The creative briefing was intense. 3 other designers, 2 art directors, and a brand strategist all sat around the conference table, and Se-yeon could feel herself being measured. Dana walked through the current project roster, client expectations, the agency's aesthetic language, and then stopped. "We also have a new situation," Dana said, pulling up a document on the screen. "Apex has a new majority stakeholder as of last week. Private acquisition, the details are still being finalized, but we've been asked to develop a complete brand identity refresh for one of their subsidiary entertainment companies by the end of Q1. She clicked to the next slide. "This is your project, Park. Fresh eyes, full ownership." Se-yeon sat up. Her own project on her first day? That was either a massive opportunity or a test that would end her. The stakeholders team will be involved in approvals. They value discretion, they're not warm, they won't hold your hand, and they will reject work without explanation. If it doesn't meet standard, do not take it personally. Do not push back with evidence. Come with data and visual precedent, or don't come at all. She looked directly at Se-yeon. "Are we clear?" "Crystal." "Good. Stakeholder representative will be on site tomorrow for the initial brief. First impressions matter." Dana clicked off the presentation. "Everyone, get to work." The meeting broke. Se-yeon settled at her new desk and exhaled. This was fine. This was manageable. She had done harder things than impress an anonymous private equity rep. She was good at her job. She was excellent, actually. She just needed to not think about this morning and focus. Her phone buzzed. A text from her boyfriend, Marcus. "Marcus, babe, did you eat?" Se-yeon, "Not yet." Marcus, "I made eggs. They're on the stove getting cold, LOL." Se-yeon, I'm sorry, I had to leave early. The heel situation. Marcus, yeah, I know. New job nerves, don't stress. You're going to be incredible today. Seyon, thank you. I love you. Marcus, love you too. Hey, can you Venmo me for the gym membership renewal? Forgot it's due today. Seyon stared at the last message. Marcus, it's only like $80. I just don't have it liquid right now until next week. She transferred the $80. Then she sat for a moment because Marcus was wonderful. He was genuinely sweet and supportive, and they had been together for 4 years, and he was her person. He was also, she was slowly acknowledging in the back of her mind, very good at not having money liquid right now. The gym membership, the streaming subscriptions that were all in her name, the dinners where his card always mysteriously had trouble, the rent that was theoretically split, but practically hers. She loved him. She did. He was kind and he made her feel safe, and he'd been there when her father was sick, and that mattered enormously. But lately, a quiet, uncomfortable voice in the back of her head had started asking if safety and kindness were enough, or if she was confusing comfort with love, and she was very good at not listening to that voice. She put her phone away and opened her design software. She had a brand identity to build. The following morning, Seyon arrived at Apex Creative House at 8:47 a.m., 13 minutes early, visually composed, wearing heels she had personally tested in her apartment hallway for structural integrity. She had spent the previous evening researching the entertainment subsidiary she'd been assigned, pulling references, building 3 preliminary concept directions, and preparing a brief that she was quietly very proud of. She was standing at the coffee station when Dana appeared in the hallway. Park, stakeholders rep is here early, conference room. Seyon grabbed her coffee and her portfolio and walked to the conference room, shoulders back, brain in presentation mode. She pushed open the glass door and looked at the man standing at the window with his back to her. Silver gray hair, low ponytail, dark turtleneck, tattoos visible at the collar and wrists. Seyon Park felt the specific sensation of the floor becoming uncertain beneath her feet. He turned around. He looked at her for exactly 1 second before his expression did something very controlled and very small that only someone paying close attention would have caught. He recognized her. "Miss Park," he said. Her borrowed flats were sitting in her apartment. She was going to need them as a keepsake of the last normal morning of her life. "Mr. Kwan," he said. "Min Jun Kwan." He paused. "You can keep the shoes." Dana was looking between them with the sharp attention of a woman who had not survived 12 years in this industry by missing subtext. "You've met?" "Briefly," Seyon said. At exactly the same moment Min Jun said, "She borrowed something of mine." Dana's eyes landed on Seyon's feet. Seyon looked down. She was wearing her own shoes. That was not the problem. The problem was that she had leaned against this man's car, argued with him about fictional hood damage, and accepted contraband footwear from him, and now he was the private stakeholder who controlled the project that was supposed to launch her career at this agency. "Well," Dana said, in the tone of someone filing this information for later, "shall we begin?" They sat. Min Jun's attention was precise, the kind that made you want to be better than you were, not of fear, but of something harder to name. Seyon presented her 3 concept directions with the clean confidence of someone who had done the work, and she had absolutely done the work. She walked through the visual language, the typographic logic, the color psychology, the competitive landscape research. She made eye contact with Dana and with Min Jun's 2 associates who sat quietly beside him. She did not let herself look at Min Jun directly for more than 5 seconds at a time, because his attention was extraordinarily distracting. When she finished, the room was quiet for a moment. "Direction 2, Min Jun said. His associate looked at him. "We should review all 3. "Direction 2, he said again, in exactly the same tone, and the associate nodded and wrote something down. Min Jun looked at Seyon. "The tension between the grid structure and the organic type treatment. It's right. Develop that." Seyon felt a warm surge of professional satisfaction that she did not let reach her face. "I'll have the first full concept in by end of next week." "Thursday," he said. "That's 3 days." "Yes." She looked at him. He looked back at her. Thursday, she agreed. Dana looked like she was having a small internal celebration. Wonderful. Minjun, can we walk you through the production timeline? Park stays, he said. Everyone in the room paused. I'm sorry, Dana asked. For the follow-up questions, the rest you can send me as documentation. It was said without heat, without explanation, the way someone speaks when they're accustomed to having the shape of the room match their preference. Dana looked at Seon. Seon kept her face neutral. Dana took the associates and left. The conference room became considerably quieter. You researched the company, Minjun said, looking at her presentation on the screen. It's my job. You found the subsidiary's original founding vision. That's not in any public document. It was in a 2019 industry podcast interview, third result on a secondary search. She paused. I researched thoroughly. Something in his face shifted. He looked at her the way he had on the sidewalk, with that absolute stillness and focus, and it was not an uncomfortable feeling, which was perhaps the more uncomfortable part. You didn't recognize my name when I introduced myself, he observed. I knew you were a stakeholder, I didn't know which one. But you know now? I looked you up last night, after Dana mentioned the acquisition. She met his gaze evenly. You could have said who you were yesterday. You were in a hurry. That's not the reason. A pause. No, he agreed. It wasn't. He collected the documents in front of him with the precise movements of someone who never wasted motion. Thursday, Miss Park. Strong work. He stood. Mr. Kwan, the shoes. I'd like to return them. She held her ground. Or pay for them. I meant what I said about the invoice. Something crossed his expression that was close to the thing that happened the day before. Not a full smile, but the bones of one. He picked up his jacket from the back of the chair. Keep them, he said. Consider it a welcome gift. He walked to the door and paused with his hand on the frame without turning around. And for the record, no marks on the hood. He left. Seon sat in the conference room for approximately 45 seconds doing nothing at all, and then pulled out her laptop and started working on the concept direction, because she had 3 days and she was going to need them all. Y'all, she called his tinted windows a public safety issue, and now he controls her entire project. If you think their energy is already dangerously compelling, smash that like button. Comment, Minjun is not playing fair if you see exactly what he's doing, and subscribe right now because over the next few weeks, Seon is going to spend so much time in that conference room, she starts calling it her second office. Marcus is going to notice things he can't name, and Minjun Kwan, who does not explain himself to anyone, is going to start explaining himself to her, and none of them are ready for what that unlocks. Over the following weeks, Seon fell into a rhythm that she did not fully acknowledge was dangerous, because it didn't feel dangerous. It felt productive. It felt like her career finally clicking into place. She delivered the Thursday concept. Minjun approved it in 11 minutes and requested a second phase by the following Monday. She delivered Monday, he requested iterations. She delivered those. Every review meeting was sharp, precise, and ran exactly as long as it needed to, and not 1 minute more. He had exceptional taste and extraordinary visual instinct, and the experience of presenting work to someone who actually understood what she was trying to do at a granular level was unlike anything she'd had with a client before. Between meetings, things got less professional. It started with a post-it note left on the conference room whiteboard after one of their sessions, a quick sketch in his hand of a typographic adjustment she'd described verbally. It was good. She texted the number on his business card without thinking. That kerning fix you sketched, you were right, I adjusted it. He texted back, 4 minutes later, obviously. She sent laughing emoji. He sent, that's not a word. She sent, an emoji is a form of visual language, which is literally my specialty. He sent, I'm reconsidering the approval. She sent, too late, the contract is signed. She had not told Marcus she was texting her client. She had also not mentioned how often she thought about the way Minjun said direction to in that meeting, like it was a settled fact instead of a choice, or how he always arrived exactly on time and left exactly when he said he would, as if the entire world had agreed to cooperate with his schedule. She hadn't mentioned any of that because none of it was relevant. He was a client, she was a professional. Everything was fine.
She also started taking her engagement-adjacent jewelry off before his site visits, the delicate promise ring Marcus had given her 2 years into their relationship with genuine sweet intent, but she told herself that was just because she didn't want it catching on her portfolio zipper. That was a real thing that could happen. She had seen it happen to someone at her last agency. This was practical, not telling. One Thursday evening, 3 weeks in, Min Jun stayed late at the agency reviewing final materials. The rest of the staff had gone. Sayar was still at her desk because she was always still at her desk. He appeared in the doorway of the open creative floor without announcing himself, which was simply how he moved through spaces. "You haven't eaten," he said. Sayon looked up from her screen. "I had coffee at 4. That's not food. I know what food is." He already was putting on his jacket. "There's a KBBQ place 2 blocks from here. They have the best doenjang jjijiang in Atlanta. You should eat." He did not phrase it as an invitation, he phrased it as information being provided. He turned to leave. "Are you," Sayon said, "asking me to dinner?"
He paused, looked back at her. "I'm providing you with the location of food. What you do with that information is your choice." A beat. "But you've been staring at that screen for 6 hours and your color choices have started to drift warm, which means you're tired." Sayon looked at her screen. Her color choices had in fact drifted warm. That was irritating. "You can tell I'm tired from my color palette drift?" "I notice things." She saved her file, grabbed her bag, and stood up. "Fine, but I'm paying for my own meal." "Obviously," he said, and walked out ahead of her. And she followed, because she was hungry and because she had stopped pretending that she didn't want to. The restaurant was small and warm and loud in the right way, and for 2 hours, Sayon talked to Min Jun Kwan about things that had nothing to do with brand identity, about growing up as a second-generation Korean American in a family that had expected her to choose medicine or law, and her own slow, quiet insistence on choosing this instead. About the graphic novel she had been building in a sketchbook since she was 19 that she had never shown anyone. About her grandmother who had taught her that composition was composition, whether it was on a plate or a page. He listened in a way that felt different from being politely heard, like what she said was being filed somewhere important. He told her about his mother, who had worked at a laundry pressing clothes for 12-hour shifts and called it honest work, with a pride that embarrassed him when he was young, and now sat at the center of everything he built. He told her about the tattoos, not the meaning of any specific one, but why he had started, a marker of a decision made and kept, the permanent record of a person becoming intentional about who he was. He showed her the one on his left forearm, a single crane mid-flight in very fine ink, and said his grandmother had drawn it first, and he'd had it transferred exactly. She looked at it for longer than she should have. She did not mention Marcus. She told herself that was because it hadn't come up naturally, and she was not going to randomly volunteer her relationship status over Donjang Jjigae. That would be strange. But she knew in the honest part of herself she kept trying to outrun, the same way she had looked at her promise ring before leaving the office and put it in her pencil drawer instead of her finger. When they walked out into the night air, the city lit and restless around them, Min Jun looked at her with that direct, controlled attention and said, "The design is excellent, Miss Park, but I want to be clear that this is not why I wanted you to stay and eat." Seon's heartbeat did something specific and unhelpful. "Then why?" "Simple. No performance. Because you're interesting. And I don't say that to many people." "How many?" "Currently?" A pause. "1." She looked up at him for a long moment on that sidewalk, Atlanta humming around them, and then she said, "I should get home." Because she should, because Marcus was home, because she had a life that she had built and a person waiting in it. Minju nodded. "I'll have a car come." "I can get my own." "Seon." She stopped at her own name in his mouth, the casual use of it without the title, like he'd been given permission he'd never asked for. "Let me do this one thing, without the invoice." She let him. She sat in the back of the car he ordered and watched the city pass and felt the very specific vertigo of a person standing at a crossroads they had promised themselves they wouldn't approach. She got home. Marcus was asleep on the couch with the television on, and he looked up when she came in, groggy and soft-faced and familiar. "Hey," he said. "Good day?" "Really good. How was yours?" "Boring. Missed you." He held out his arm and she sat beside him, and he pulled her close and the television muttered quietly, and he was warm and she had known him for 4 years, and she felt sitting there like she was two people at the same time and wasn't sure which one was more real. Her phone was in her bag. She did not check it, but she knew there was a message there because she had heard it buzz in the car and she already knew exactly who it was from. She checked it 20 minutes after Marcus fell back asleep. Min-June. The crane, if you were wondering, means longevity, long commitment to what you choose. She stared at that message in the quiet of her living room for a very long time. Then she typed back, "Why are you telling me that?" He replied after a moment, "Because I think you understand what that costs." She put her phone down. Her promise ring was still in her pencil drawer at the office. She had not once thought about it until right now. Y'all, he told her about the crane tattoo, and she is sitting there next to her sleeping boyfriend in the dark. If you feel that tension in your chest, leave a comment saying, "The crane said everything." Subscribe right now because in the next episode, Marcus is going to find a receipt. Dana is going to notice something she can't ignore. And Min-June Kwon is going to do something nobody who knows him was capable of. And it is going to completely rearrange everything. You do not want to miss what's coming.